So, as many of the viewers of this channel know, I do a ton of DIY stuff, and I'm a huge advocate of the right tool for the right job. And even more specifically, I'm the most obnoxious fanboy of DeWalt, which, Stanley Black & Decker, I applied for jobs for you guys, and you didn't let me in. So what gives? Come on. Maybe because of reviews like this that are about to happen. No, needless to say, this was a cool tool that I was really hoping that DeWalt would drop, and they sure enough did. And what this is a tool that allows you to cut PVC pipe with the addition of an existing tool, impact driver. So you just take an impact driver, clamp this little guy onto the base of it. It's just got little thumb screws that hold it in place. Some adjustments to get this thing in place here. It uses the existing chuck for your impact to drive this big blade backwards and forwards. And that looks like, I'll do it here for you, like that. And you could do 2-inch PVC, which is pretty awesome. That gives you a lot of cut diameter, which is great. And then let's push it forward. Pretty simple operation. It even has a self stopping, so it has a resistor inside here, essentially, like this does, so you can't over destroy the toy, or the tool. I should call it a toy, because it's not quite tool caliber, in my opinion, because as you'll see, this cute little arm, this must have been cast aluminum, is what it looks like, and poorly cast, in my opinion. From a structural standpoint, did not hold up. And the reason for that is this blade goes in between these two arms. You can see kind of where it went there, and it snapped that right off. But how it did that is interesting, because the blade itself has no stabilization as it's going forward. And as you can see, if I pull on the blade, I can move it a pretty good amount from either side. Here, I'll try and get that leveled here. But because of my ability to move the blade, so can the PVC that it's cutting through. And what happened is the PVC that it was cutting through diverted the blade over. And I'll back the blade up just to where it was about to happen. So it must have been about here. And then the blade was being pushed toward this tooth, so it was coming this direction. And you can see the blade's indentation right there, where it caught onto this metal and pressed the metal forward until it snapped it off. Well, first and foremost, that's a terrible design, because this shouldn't be able to move enough to interfere. And additionally, this should be strong enough that if the interference does happen to it, it either is malleable and takes that, so this could have been made out of a plastic or a rubber to prevent that on the interior edge, so that if there were catching and binding, it would just puncture or destroy that rubber and not snap this arm off. But because of this design flaw, I don't know if I would ever recommend this tool, because it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it happens. If one side of your blade, and this is 2 cuts. I made 1 cut last night. I made a video of it. I uploaded the video, but I didn't publish it because the second cut, while I was uploading the video that I made with the tool, it snapped and cannibalized itself. So needless to say, I wouldn't recommend this, because if one side of the blade became dull faster than the other, or for some reason that blade was deflecting to one side or the other, it will just snap the housing that it's in and effectively make the tool useless. You can't use this tool anymore. So now I've owned this one whole day, used it for 2 cuts, and have to return this. So overall, product, really disappointed. Additionally, it is kind of bulky. I'm not too upset about that. I get that there's some need for the weight to make it rigid enough. I would have loved it as a standalone tool. This is $120, and you could get an impact for about that. So if they just made an impact with it, I think the reason they had to go this route is because Milwaukee actually owns the patents on these types of things. Patents in the US seem to be one of the biggest bottlenecks in innovation. If you look at reciprocating or oscillating tools, no company's had them, because one crappy company had a patent on them for years, and then every tool company in the world popped them out, and we all got one finally. Similarly, I think a reason is happening why we're getting this as an exterior or an add-on tool rather than a standalone tool by itself. But regardless, from an engineering perspective, from an industrial design standpoint, this seems to be just very flawed in its design. It should have some sort of a way to make sure that the blade is like kind of fair led into the channel so that it can't catch on these things. Maybe a taper effect that would slide the blade to the center point rather than allowing it to just chew into the edge. And even if it were to have to be the same design, using some sort of another more pliable material so as not to snap it, because it's a real bummer that this is a brand new tool. I actually had to ask the folks at Lowe's to get it down from top stock. And literally I got to make 2 cuts with it, and now it's done. I normally would have them give me another tool and try it again, but based on this design, I really don't think it's appropriate. I don't think this tool will last. I think it will inevitably just break in the same manner again and again. So I'm going to go look for other PVC cutters, as I do have a good amount of PVC cutting to do. And for those following along, this is for the stove on the deck project. I have lined up all of my PVC. Over here you can see the pool pump over there, and these are all my fittings. They're going to come over here and run over up to the side and pop out right over there and feed in, and then back out again and return to the pool with hot water from a heat exchanger I'll be building on the top. But to get to that point, I need to cut a bunch of PVC, and I needed a good PVC cutter. That's my little stove top or chimney flue cap. I didn't find one, so I tried to put it on there, but the wind blew it off. Terrible. Needless to say, need to cut a bunch of PVC. Thought I had found what would be the end-all be-all, my favorite brand of all tool brands, DeWalt, and it sucks. It just sucks. I cannot recommend this tool. It is bulky, and it doesn't have good safety internal features to keep it from self-cannibalizing. So, you know, out of all the things I've recommended for DeWalt, which is every other tool that I have by them, this is not a tool I would recommend.